Hello, welcome to CIO Leadership Live New Zealand. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, Editor-in-Chief in APAC for Foundry's flagship enterprise brands, CIO and CSO. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Ruth Russell from Te Tumu Paiora. Kia ora, Ruth. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Kia ora, Kathy. Kia ora. I whānau mai au e te whanganui atara, engari no kotirana me ingarangi o Kitipuna. Ko Ruth Russell tōku ingoa, ko te kaihautu hangarau whakāturanga ki Te Tumu Paiora. Kia ora. Thank you for having me here today.
Kia ora. So I'd love to hear more about you, Ruth. You were one of our CIO 50 alumni for 2023. But can you tell us a bit more about how you got your start in IT and what your career path to date has been?
Yeah, sure. So I chose to do a Bachelor of Commerce and Administration and Information Systems alongside a Bachelor of Arts and Philosophy at Victoria University of Wellington, and applied for several graduate programs, as you do, at the end of my time, and was successfully taken into the EY graduate program. So for those who don't know, EY is one of the large accounting and consultancy firms globally. I joined what was then called Enterprise Risk and Improvement Services, and is now their consulting practice. Through that time, I was with them for 17 years. So as a consultant, got quite a broad technical background, working with lots of different organisations, but technology and risk were two key components that stayed as a thread throughout. And so worked with many different organisations. I spent time in the UK with EY, so worked with large global organisations, saw what worked and what didn't from a technology perspective in different contexts. But after a time, I started feeling just a little bit separate from the kaupapa. I wanted to have the opportunity to have a bit more of a direct impact on technology and how that served people in an organisation whose values aligned with mine. A friend saw the CIO, Kaihautu Hangarau Whakāturanga at Te Tumu Paiora, and said, "Oh, this looks like you." I looked at it and I thought, yes, it does, and thankfully they thought so too. So this role is actually my first professional role outside of EY, outside of being a consultant, and my first CIO role. And really enjoying being part of an organisation who's really strongly values focused and really cares about the kaupapa and the owners for whom we work on behalf.
So tell us more then about Te Tumu Paiora. You know, it might not be a household name for many people. So can you tell us a bit more about its purpose, its kaupapa, and what you and your team look after there?
Yeah, sure. So Te Tumu Paiora is the office of the Māori Trustee. So the Māori Trustee is appointed by the Minister for Māori Development. Presently, that's Dr. Charlotte Severn. So the Māori Trustee is appointed as responsible trustee, or we provide agency services for whenua Māori land trusts across the motu. So Te Tumu Paiora is the office, the engine behind Charlotte that enables her to execute her responsibilities. So we administer about 1,800 whenua Māori land blocks across the motu on behalf of 100,000 beneficial owners. So that includes everything from trust management to property management. And my team looks after the IT, which obviously in any organisations these days is fundamental to the way services are delivered to clients. So the way services are delivered to our owners, and how we execute our vision to protect and enhance whenua Māori for now and generations to come.
And of course, one of the big projects that you and your team have been involved in is the establishment of a Māori data sovereignty framework. So can you tell us a bit more about the importance of Māori data sovereignty and what you and the team have implemented?
Yeah, sure. So just by way of context, Indigenous data sovereignty is a global concept, and it recognises that Indigenous populations have sovereignty over data that is about them, and the world around them, so including the environment. So in Aotearoa, Māori data sovereignty, I just want to mihi to Te Mana Raraunga, Te Kahue Raraunga, so they are the voices of authority around Māori data sovereignty framework, Māori data sovereignty. So as a Māori organisation, working for Māori in a Māori way, we recognise the importance of implementing a Māori data sovereignty framework for Te Tumu Paiora. So in Te Ao Māori, the data that pertains to the person and to the whenua that those people are connected to is tapu, sacred, has mana, which is identity, and carries the mauri, or the life essence of the people and the whenua to which it's connected. So when you acknowledge that changes the conversations you have around it. It's more than just about security and privacy. It changes how you make decisions about the information and the systems in which that information is held. It changes who's in the room when you make the decision, and it changes how you share the information. So our Māori Data Sovereignty Framework sets out a practical framework that says this is what Māori data sovereignty means to us in the context of our mahi, and here are the practical ways that we will implement to acknowledge the mana, the tapu, and the mauri of that information.
So what has been, I guess, some of the big challenges during this process of setting up the framework?
So I think that the first thing was it started very much as an IT initiative, and we very quickly realised that that wasn't the right place to own it. Māori data sovereignty is a much bigger topic than that. So one of the best things we did is sort of set the tech aside, get together a rōpū, a group of people from across the organisation, to ground the framework in our values and our context, and talk about Māori data sovereignty from that perspective, and what our positions were on those. That meant that actually we had the big discussions, and then the tech followed quite simply after that in terms of the implementation. The other thing is it's not something that happens overnight. We've been working on this for 2.5 years now, and I think we've probably got another 2.5 years to go before we can fully say it's really implemented. It does take time. It's a big, complex topic, but what this has done is enabled us to take steps towards implementing elements along the way. So we're continually improving the way we look after the data that we're a kaitiaki for, a guardian for, in a manner which is grounded in Te Ao Māori.
And what have been some of the benefits then, going through this journey? What have you learned, and, what do you hope to do with it next?
So I think there's two key things. The first I've already mentioned around it's changed the way we make decisions. I feel the decisions we make, the people we have in the room, we have far richer conversations, and we talk far more about cultural safety rather than just security and privacy, which we kind of almost take as a given. If it's not secure and private, we can't have the conversations about whether we're enabling Māori data sovereignty. The other thing is it's something practical. It's not perfect. As I mentioned, we're not all the way there yet, but it's enabling us to take steps along the journey. And one of the things because of this, and I know many organisations are keen to implement Māori data sovereignty and keen to figure out what it means for their organisations, but because it's such a big topic, I think many organisations do find it hard to start or hard to move it along. So we've been really happy to share our whakaaro, our thinking around the framework with other organisations, so they can also see a place to start, which I think is really what this is, a place to start and grow from there.
Yeah, wonderful. And you having that experience and gone through that journey, you have a lot to share, I guess, with the other organizations who may be just starting down this pathway. So look, Ruth, data is obviously very much part of things like Gen AI and AI. And I'm really keen to hear, I guess, your thoughts on whether you think there are opportunities in your organization when it comes to Gen AI and AI.
Yes, absolutely. We do see opportunities. We're very much in the embrace AI side of the equation with the right control, monitoring, training, and awareness for kaimahia staff across the organisation. So we're doing it in a way that manages the risk. We absolutely see the benefits to us in terms of efficiency, and we're increasingly looking at and challenging ourselves about how can we really make a difference for our owners, for whenua Māori, using the technology. So for me, it's really important we look at what are the problems and opportunities we're looking to solve, so that we're targeting the use of that AI in the best way. The Māori Data Sovereignty Framework has enabled us to make decisions around the use of AI. So it grounds us in Te Ao Māori and thinks about what's other benefits to Māori. How do we control it in a way that is tika? So we're not just jumping on the bandwagon. So as part of our cloud program, we'll be looking at identifying those problems and opportunities that we think AI and indeed other technology are able to help us solve.
Now, I'm sure there's not a day goes by without an email from someone trying to sell you something. So what's important to you when you choose technology providers? What are you looking for in terms of, you know, a good partnership? What does that look like from your perspective?
So for me, I kind of feel the technology and the offering has to be a given. One of the big things I look for is organisations that care about our kaupapa, our purpose, that care about Māori data sovereignty. They don't necessarily need to be very far along on the journey. We're happy to share our perspective of it and help them understand it. But it feels really different talking to vendors that really do care about that and acknowledge the importance and want to go on that journey. It just feels more culturally safe and gives us the confidence that they won't just barrel on and do things because it's the best technical thing. They'll be consulting with us about the cultural aspects with us, whether it's the right thing to be doing, and also just engage with us in a way that is at least has some level of cultural competence, which for our organisation is really important.
Absolutely. And look, you know, I've heard the saying that a CIO is only as good as their team. So what kind of strategies have you implemented to, I guess, foster that culture of continuous learning and making sure that you're collaborating? How do you keep your kaimahi engaged?
Yeah, so collaboration is absolutely key. And if any decision comes to me, I always ask who have you talked to, because I definitely value the diverse opinions from the team. In terms of developing them, I guess there's sort of two or three key components. The first is the informal on-the-job learning. For example, we've been really focused on getting everyone's security competence up over the last few years. So that's a mixture of on-the-job training, some targeted learning, working with our IT security manager who has a real strength in security. And we see that in terms of the fact that now all of our team are raising and addressing security concerns, whereas previously it was left to the security team. We've also adapted the Skills for an Information Age framework, SOFIA framework. I say adapted. We've taken the 120 odd skills and brought it down to 12 that suit us as an organisation from an IT perspective. And we use those for each role. We say this is the level that we expect, and that then identifies development requirements for individuals, which then, so for each of the competency areas, we've got foundational and specialist courses that are tied to that, and that flows into the learning and development plan. So the combination of that informal learning and then some structured training. The third element I'd say is I see real benefit in our teams doing training together, because what I see is them getting excited, talking about the training, talking about how we could bring it back to our team and adapt it for our environment. So I can see those real tangible benefits. It's for their development, for their CV, and also for the benefit of the organisation. So where it makes sense, we send groups on training together.
Yeah, that's such a great approach, and wonderful to hear as well that you're using that SOFIA skills framework, because I've heard some great success stories from CIOs who have implemented that. And look, another really important thing when it comes to teams is diversity. The more diverse your team is, the higher chance of success that you have. So how do you prioritize and, I guess, support diversity and inclusion initiatives within your organization? And is there anything, I guess, you think can be done better here in Aotearoa to attract more Maori and Pacifica in particular to consider IT as a career?
Yeah, so I guess unsurprisingly, as a Māori organisation, we are focused on developing Māori talent. One of the things I'm really passionate about is it's not just about attracting the talent, it's about changing the way we do things to make them feel welcome. So one of the initiatives I'm most proud of is the He Kākano internship program. So that's an initiative with ourselves, Te Tumu Whareroa, Te Runanga o Tō Rangatira, Te Puni Kōkiri and Datacom, where we have developed an alternative pathway for rangatahi into tech. So as I mentioned, I want it to be a different experience. So this is an 18-month program where they get placements with all three of those organisations. But there's a few key differences. Firstly, iwi identify the candidates. We whānau are involved in the interview process, which isn't really an interview. And we also held those interviews out at Ngāti Toa. So the employers were manuhiri, the guests. It was actually a really beautiful day when we had the first set of interviews and met the first candidates. We also, our entry criteria is not, I guess, a typical graduate program. It's an interest in tech, but a wish to use that, the knowledge that they build to benefit iwi, hapu and whānau, and just a strong work ethic. So someone who's really keen. We have check-ins throughout the program. So there are Māori order, wellness check-ins and program level check-ins. We also have tuakana taina, so older sibling, younger sibling relationships at different levels throughout the whole program to enable that feeling of whānau. So our first Pia Kākano, He Kākano graduate, joined us in January for the first 6 months, and having that tuakana taina relationship, I think, helps ease that transition from a place where you're really used to working with your whānau. So we want to enable that whānau feeling in the way that they undertake their internship. Basically, the internship, they get to see an IT team working in a smaller Māori organisation, us then moving on to another kaupapa Māori organisation, Te Puni Kōkiri, and get more specialised as they go. And then finally, their final placement is with Datacom. So obviously that's a lot bigger. They've become way more specialised, and at the end of the internship, we help them identify what's next for them. Maybe they want to go on to do more study. Maybe they've found their passion in IT. We help them find a job in that area. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how that goes. It's very much it's been in concept for quite a while. Now we're really in there, and we need to deliver on that commitment of making it a different experience. And I hope, we'll be sharing the story. I hope that other organisations will look at it and go, oh, maybe we can think differently about how we go about this and make our environment a more welcoming place where many different people from diverse backgrounds can succeed.
Kia ora. Sounds like such a wonderful program, and I actually can't wait to talk to you again in the future about how some of those interns are getting on and what you've learned along the way. So look, finally then, Ruth, what's important to you in the year ahead? Do you have any big initiatives in the pipeline?
Yeah, 24 and 25 are going to be really big years for us. I mean, we've had a big few years since I started, but we are embarking on our cloud program, and I'd say we're able to embark on that with confidence, with the grounding that we've got in the Māori Data Sovereignty framework in terms of how we go about that. So for us, that's not just a big change tech-wise. We will be looking at how we can do our business processes better, leveraging technology. I talked about AI earlier. So we really want to use this opportunity to see how we can do our mahi even better and serve whenua Māori even better. So yeah, it's an exciting time for us.
Ruth Russell, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, really appreciate it. Ngā mihi.